Welcome into Week 11. The Texans are warming up for the Washington Commanders. You're looking live at the Texans warming up. There's Desmond King II. He could play a bigger role on defense today. Derek Stingley is out, has been ruled out with a hamstring, and the Texans hope to get on a winning streak against a Washington team coming off a short week, just having knocked off the Eagles, handing them their first loss of the season. The Texans, they also added a few new players on the waiver wire this week. Could they make their debut as well? We'll get you ready for today's game with the top storylines, answer fan questions, and we'll go one-on-one with rookie linebacker Christian Harris. Texans Unlimited Live, presented by Verizon, starts now.
Welcome to our coverage of Houston Texans football.
Need some juice, need some energy, and just do your job. Let's go, Texans! Let's go!
Welcome into Texans Unlimited Live, presented by Verizon. It's Salute to Service game. The Texans are hosting the Washington Commanders, and I've got my good friend Drew Doherty along with you. And we hit on it in the open. Desmond King could play a bigger role on this defense. Derek Stingley is out for today's game. Had a hamstring injury that popped up last week on the injury report, and he's been ruled out for today's game. So that brings up a host of questions, namely who's going to help cover Terry McLaurin and some of these Commanders receivers.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is a big deal. I mean, he's started every game, and he's been excellent. He's been the third overall pick just like he wanted. He hasn't had to get as much action as maybe a cornerback normally would because teams have been able to run at will on the Texans. So see how much that changes today, because last week on Monday night, these guys ran 49 times in their win over the Eagles. So will that strategy continue? We'll see. But, yeah, you don't have your top corner out there against a guy who's very, very dangerous in McLaurin. With two other guys, we heard from Dino Vasso, the cornerbacks coach for the Texans, that trio of receivers are excellent. So, I mean, this is going to be a tall task for the Texans defense.
Yeah, the best trio of receivers that the Texans have faced all year, according to Dino Vasso. But we're going to hit on that in Quick Hits presented by BMW. The Texans have scored just 30 points in the fourth quarter through 9 games this year. And last week against the Giants, there were 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter against the Giants up in New York. So head coach Lovie Smith said, cannot focus on the past. You got to really start to finish games here starting today.
I know I'm the head coach. I'm supposed to be able to tell you, hey, this is the reason why. But I just think if we continue, if we were just, no production, I would really be concerned. I just look at yesterday. We were down there. That word finish has been used an awful lot, but that's the case. And untimely penalties. We are close. And don't know exactly what the reason is, but we're getting another opportunity. That's a good thing about, where we are in our football season. The Commanders are coming in. We get a chance. They got a chance to see us up close and personal yesterday. Excited about seeing them. Excited about coming back home. When you go on the road and you lose a tough one like that, you do want to come back home. And hopefully we'll, correct some of those things this week.
Wide receiver Nico Collins has emerged as Davis Mills' favorite target. He missed 2 games with a groin injury. Returned last week against New York, caught a touchdown pass. And Davis Mills talked about where he has seen the most growth from the second-year wide receiver.
I think just his understanding of the offense and defensive schemes. He's grown a lot as a player. He's gone out there, obviously. He's a freak and extremely talented, and he's going to win his one-on-one matchups. But the thing where he's grown is where zone coverage. He knows where the openings and the zones are starting to come open, and the timing on the routes of when he's going to be able to get the ball. So the more and more he keeps learning and getting a better feel for the defense, it's going to be extremely hard to stop him.
And the Washington Commanders are 5-5, 3-1 with Taylor Heineke under center. Cornerbacks coach Dino Vasso said this Washington receiver group and running backs group presents its own a set of unique challenges for the Texans secondary today.
Yeah, this might be the best trio of receivers that we've played. 17, Terry, obviously, elite speed, game-changing speed, can win at all 3 levels. Obviously strong after the catch, just a great player in this league. And then I know they say the analytic community that wins isn't a quarterback stat, but this guy's won games as of late. So he's playing at a high level. The guys have rallied around him. And then you look at the other receivers, Curtis Samuel, kind of a positionless player, will line really everywhere on the field. Good run after catch, just good combination of elusiveness and power with the ball in his hands. And then the rookie, Dotson, he's missed some time, but he's back now. Just a refined, polished route runner. When you cut on the tape, doesn't really look like a rookie. So they got a good group.
And what a trio of wide receivers that is. Terry McLaurin,
Yeah.
Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. And the Texans secondary is going to have to find a way to contain them today. So let's get into some of your inactives of the week. We hit on the big one. Drew, lead us through these Texans inactives.
Yes, indeed, DP, the name right there in the middle, number 24. Derek Stingley, like we said at the very outset of this show, not suiting up. Also, a few other notable names. For the second straight week, Brevin Jordan going to be on the sidelines watching things. So the Texans will go with 3 tight ends in Quatoriano, O.J. Howard, and, of course, Jordan Akins. Plus, Amari Rodgers and Eno Benjamin, those were the 2 guys added on waivers earlier this week. Now, Rodgers didn't practice until Friday, but Benjamin was out there Thursday and Friday, and he said, hey, I think I'd be ready to go if necessary. But Texans going to hold him out a week, and then Neville Hewitt and the rookies Booker and Deculus not going to go this week as well. And then over on the other side, you see the names there. Nothing too wild as far as who's not going for Washington. But, yeah, Texans going to be without some key components today. None bigger than Stingley, DP.
Yeah, you get Michael Dwumfor, defensive lineman, off IR. He was pulled off IR, and so he should be active for today's game.
Yep.
Also pulled up from the practice squad, a couple of DBs in Kobe Francis and Will Redmond. They are active today. So Texans defense getting a little bit of help there. And now you look at the field, there's Tremon Smith. He could see some action there in the secondary as well, because on the depth chart, he's going to be backing up Desmond King. But, of course, we like what we see from him in the kickoff return game. Absolutely.
He's definitely going to get called upon in special teams. And like we heard from Lovie Smith earlier in the week, Tremon Smith, somebody that you're going to have to lean on a little bit more defensively than you normally would.
Yep, let's get into some of your fan questions presented by Daikin. I love seeing where people are watching from, so drop those in your comments. And, Drew, why don't you hit us up with this first question from Logan?
Oakley Dokley, he wants to know, how many sacks will Jerry Hughes get today? How about 2? Let's get 2
2
for Jerry
sacks.
Hughes. Why not? He's got 8 through 9 games. Let's get to an even 10 through 10.
Let's get him double digits.
But Jerry Hughes has been a remarkable story. It's a shame that the Texans have just 1 win, because otherwise he would be getting a lot of attention nationally for what he's doing. 8 sacks has been really, really fun to see what he's done. Now, he came in, and he was immediately named a starter. He'd only been here a few months, so he had a gravitas, a respect in the locker room, and he's not just been, oh, hey, that guy's a good leader guy. He's actually been a good player as well as being a good leader guy. So Jerry Hughes, how about 2 sacks today? Because, you know, you can get after this guy. You can get after Taylor Heineke. He can make some mistakes. And if you do sack him and you do get him thinking a little bit more, maybe he'll turn the ball over. These guys are -2 on the season in turnover differential, the Commanders are. So give me 2. How about you? What do you say?
I like that number. I mean, I'm at least going to go for 1, but I like 2. I like to get Jerry Hughes to double digits. It's been a while since we've had a double-digit sack leader for the Texans. And Jerry's been collecting sacks at a pretty rapid clip. This is the most he's ever gotten through the first 9 games of a season for him. It's year 13 for him. He's 34 years old. I think that's even more remarkable that at this age, what he's able to do. He's obviously got the pass rush moves. He's finishing those pass rush moves a little bit better. Even his D-line coach, Jacques Césaire, said that that's the difference he's seen from last year to this year for Jerry. Just putting everything together and really finishing through, and that's how he's able to get more sacks. So we definitely want to see that momentum continue.
Yeah. You know, our next question is coming from Jameson, and since we're looking at Davis Mills a little moment ago, Jameson was likely or wanting to know who's more likely to pop off, Cooks or Collins. And so I think it's probably going to be Collins. Nico Collins has been really, really fun this year. He can get deep. Everyone talks about his frame and how he can box out other defensive backs and all that stuff, and that is absolutely 110% true, and nobody ever talks about his speed. This guy's a burner. He's got those long legs moving. He can go. He can get after it. So I'm going to go with Collins, but Cooks could also do the job as well.
Yes, both of them, to have them both back and healthy, that's something you definitely want to see. But I think with Brandon Cooks, he's obviously been the number one receiver, so he's probably going to get a lot more attention from opposing defenses, which may open up things for Nico Collins. But I think Nico, when he's able to just go one-on-one with a guy, he can use his body to his advantage. He's just got that size and that length. And, we saw last week against the Giants, that was the only touchdown the Texans had scored. They had 6 trips to the red zone. Only one ended in a touchdown, and that was the play by Nico Collins. His route running is just so crisp and so smooth. And I think he's really putting it together from last year to this year, and the chemistry that he's had with Davis Mills is only going to grow stronger. So I feel like he's already crossed over into being the number one receiver for the Texans. I think the 2 games he was out probably hurt his numbers a little bit, but before he was out, he already had more, and I think we've seen him getting more targets. He had 10 targets last week against the Giants.
They want to feed him. They absolutely
do.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie wants to know what's the biggest key for the defense with Stingley out, and I think that we hit on it a little bit earlier with those wide receivers, the trio of wide receivers. You cannot give up big plays. So I think obviously you've got that, and then the run game, which has just been an ongoing storyline for this team, because the secondary, there haven't been a lot of passing attempts because teams would just like to run the ball. But I think with Stingley out, you might see them try to test that secondary a little bit more.
Totally. But then on the flip side, like I mentioned earlier, they ran it 49 times Monday night. Hey, the Giants did it 47 times against the Texans last week. And some might say that wasn't enough. They should have done it more. And what has worked against this team this year? Running the ball, controlling the clock, gashing this defense for 8, 9, 10 more yards per carry. If you can do that, you can walk away with a win pretty easily, as we see some of the guys coming onto the field there.
It's some of the members of the secondary as well.
Jalen Petrie is somebody that wants to play a little bit better. He's got high expectations of himself, and Lovie Smith said this week he's got to tackle better. He knows that. He's working on it. But this could be a big day for Jalen Petrie in that if they are passing more, he's got an opportunity to come up with some takeaways. Haven't seen much since the week of the Chicago Bears game when he had 2.
And I can't believe we've gone this far into the show without talking about Damian Pierce. Can we just mention that he leads rookies in rushing yards and scrimmage yards as well? And he's, this is our plug to make him Offensive Rookie of the Year, because he's racking up numbers. And he's been fun to watch.
As big a breath of fresh air as Jerry Hughes has been.
Absolutely.
This guy's maybe even been a bigger breath of fresh air because of the future in front of him. And how much fun he is to watch on the field, and then how much fun he is to talk to off the field. But make no mistake, he runs with violence, and he is a sight to see when he gets the ball.
Absolutely. All right, another question. We got a lot of questions about the defense today. German Texan wants to know, how do you think our cornerbacks will play? I mean, I think one guy that we have not talked enough about this year is Steven Nelson, because he's a veteran back there. He had back-to-back games with a takeaway. Texans didn't take the ball away last week at all, but I think he is just such a smart player. He's a veteran player, and I think the development of Derek Stingley with a guy like that in the room has been hugely beneficial. But I think to Desmond King and to Tavier Thomas and some of these other guys, they have the experience as well. And I love Desmond King back there when he's playing in the secondary. And we're going to see more of that today.
Yeah, and there's something to remember. Steven Nelson was an Eagle last year, so two games against the NFC rivals here in Washington. And, it's a common refrain. There's lots of connections between 2 teams every time you play. One of them is Brian Robinson Jr., the running back for Washington, and Christian Harris, our linebacker. Those 2 played at Alabama together, DP.
Absolutely. And speaking of Christian Harris, he started 3 games. He had a career-high 9 tackles against the Giants last week, and you had a chance to catch up with the rookie linebacker earlier this week.
Linebacker Christian Harris is the guest now on the Player Pregame Special. Christian, great to be with you. 4 games in now, because you missed some time because of the injury, but 4 games in. You get the bulk of the snaps that first one. You've started the last 3. How much have you grown? What have you learned in that span?
I've learned a lot, really. Honestly, I think one of the biggest things for me is to just, slow my tempo down and trust my pace, trust my, preparation that I put in going into these weeks for these games. I know stage is a lot bigger. People can say that with, just better players and it being the NFL, but, I think the concept of football stays the same. It's still a child's game, so continuously finding ways to remind myself of that or have guys do that for me. It helped me out a lot.
So with all that in mind, what is something that you like that you've done, and what's something that you want to get better at?
I'm liking how I'm able to utilize my speed, seeing how I can make plays with that. But I think just from a physicality standpoint, I think I want to do better with that, using my hands a little more trusting myself with my reads and just what I'm seeing, just so I can play a lot faster.
You know, you're one of many rookies, both sides of the ball, whether you were drafted or not, that have started and contributed so far this season to the Texans. Is there kind of a kinship, kind of a bond with you guys that are first-year players right now?
Most definitely. I think a lot of it comes from just us being in the SEC. I played against Austin, I played against DP, and I know guys like Sting. So I trained with Petrie at Exos for the Combine. So I got a chance to already build a relationship with these guys coming in. So we all blend in pretty well with that.
And, hey, you want to win now. You want to win this game.
Yes,
you want to win every single
100%.
week. But for the future, that's got to be kind of cool, knowing that you all are part of something, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it is good to be part of something, and hopefully, bring some more wins to this organization. And I mean, it really starts right now. Like you said, we're trying to win now, so it's just a matter of attacking that right now, best we can.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you guys as a defense, you want to stop the run better. What are some ways that can happen?
I think physicality. I think on the second level with linebackers, me and myself personally, just doing better with my hands when it comes to the point of attack. And just trying to be more consistent with that. I think, as a whole, collectively, if we're more consistent on defense, so in that same energy from first to fourth quarter, we'll be a lot better.
Nice. Washington is the opponent this weekend. You see a familiar face in Brian Robinson across the way. As a team, they ran it 49 times on Monday night. What's the challenge there with Robinson? Has he done anything differently than what you were accustomed to seeing back in Tuscaloosa? I
mean, I see him play his game and just do a lot better with that. I mean, just run it even harder than he did at Alabama. He's getting a lot faster, good vision. So he's a great all-around back. I mean, it's a great challenge for me. I'm excited. So, yeah.
And what is the quarterback, Taylor Heineke, what does he present to you guys? What sort of challenge, I guess, is the word that we've been using?
He's more elusive than I think people would think. He can extend plays, and he runs, he does his job fitting in their scheme, pretty well. I think all of their players do that pretty well, and they did this last weekend coming off a big W, so. Yeah, they all, like I said, they'll present pretty good challenges for us.
All right. When you get ready for a game, what time do you wake up in the morning for a noon contest?
Probably around 6:30, 7, yeah.
Are you able to eat much before the game?
Yeah, I eat around 8 or 9. We don't play till 12, so I have enough time to, eat and get it all digested, get hydrated and stuff, so I'll be ready for it.
Anything you're listening to before the game gets going?
In the morning, I wake up with this morning praise. I got this little gospel playlist I got my mom sent me. And then after that, it's mainly probably Gunna, little Young Thug, Young Boy closer to the field. But yeah, that's about it.
You ramp things up. I like that.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Got to start off smooth.
We're hoping you're ramping up to wins. We appreciate the time, Christian Harris.
Yes,
Best of luck, and we'll talk to you again very
Most
soon.
Definitely appreciate that.
There he is, rookie linebacker Christian Harris, warming up for his fourth consecutive start. And we had a chance to chat with him. It's going to be huge against the run today.
Yeah.
As he's been fun to watch as well since he started the season off on IR and then he got into the lineup. But let's get into some of our starting lineups for today. We're going to start off with offense. And there he is, Damian Pierce, of course, in the lineup with Troy Hairston, Davis Mills, your starting quarterback. And no big changes. Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, and tight end O.J. Howard is your starter. And the same starting five at offensive line. So let's switch it over to defense. We're going to see a little bit more change.
Yeah, Rasheem Green, Roy Lopez, Malik Collins, Jerry Hughes, you see they'll be going. There was a little bit of a question about Green coming into the game, but Harrison, Kirksey, and Wallow going to start at linebacker, and then Desmond King and Steve Nelson. Like we talked about, they're your corners with Stingley out, so Desmond going to pop outside to do that. But there's a chance, they start out in nickel, and these, as you see at the bottom, starting lineup is based on an unofficial team depth chart. So
absolutely, that could happen on offense too, because we saw a couple, 2 running back sets. You might see an extra wide receiver out there.
2 or 3 tight end sets sometimes.
We could go crazy on the first play of a game, and that'll be your official starting lineup. But Drew, let's talk about sleepers of the game, presented by Mattress Firm. Should I go first? Do you want to go first?
You go first, yeah.
I'll go first. I have mine. I'm going to go Steven Nelson.
All right.
Because I think that we've seen him get some takeaways. And Taylor Heineke, he does tend to throw interceptions. Threw one against the Eagles last week. He's got 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And I think that if the secondary can get after him, they can sort of pressure him to turn the ball over. And I like what Steven Nelson's done so far this year.
I like that choice, and I'm going to stay there in the secondary with you. I'm going with Jalen Petrie. He's going to go off today. He's going to get a pick. I think he's going to have a big, big afternoon. They need one from him, and that's who my sleeper of the game is, DB.
All right, we got just under 40 minutes until kickoff. You can catch the game on Fox. You can also catch it on Sports Radio 610. And the Texans' next home game will be Week 13, December 4th. They'll be hosting the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I don't think there's much to see in that game, do you? I mean, no big national storylines for that game, but if you want to see what might develop in that game, you can go to HoustonTexans.com/tickets to get yours. But that's going to do it for Texans Unlimited Live, presented by Verizon. Have yourselves a great game day, and as always, go Texans.